Okay. One of my spiritual gifts is seeing the potential in people. I've always done this, and actually I've clung on to that, and that's actually what got me in trouble, because all I did was hold on to the potential of people instead of facing the reality of who they were. And so I want to talk about that in terms of like Gia Prism and Sarah Treadwell. So I would say right now they're being bitches. They're being big, fat fucking bitches. They're using some inflammatory language. They're being dismissive. They're being narcissistic. Now, what I want to say with that is great potential. That is excellent potential, because what they need to do is just get their minds coherent to the timeline we're supposed to be on and deconstruct, their egos and their identities, which are based in the fact that they dismiss people's realities when they're sharing their truths. And so, because that's all it is. It's just this very simple fix. And if they use that bitchiness towards the right things, which is what I feel like I'm doing, sometimes I feel like I have this power of being an absolute bitch, and I've always been this way, but you have to really push me to a point, and also, it's always in the face of standing up for what's right. I've rarely been a bitch for no fucking reason. And so, like, that's what I want to say, is, like, their actions were bitchy towards me. However, if they could just get coherent and heal and do all that stuff, and that bitchiness in women is actually a power. And we actually need that in order to deconstruct the systems of oppression. Because could you imagine if all women just decided to actually be a bitch, but just, like, towards the right things? Like, towards the system, like, towards people who are defending the system, and, like, that's all we're upset about? Because that's all I get upset about. Literally, genuinely, these days. Like, or I do get personal attacks of narcissism. It does, like, kind of piss me off. But even that has been, a little bit easier. But yeah, God's been, like, saying, like, lately, like, he gave, like, some of us seasoning, and we earn that seasoning through trauma and things like that, and we need to, like, use that, like, right now, because, like, again, like, yes, I do predict the aliens are coming, right? But I'm also not just, like, telling people to sit around and do nothing about it. I literally tell people how to rewire their minds, how to heal their trauma, how to heal their wounds, so they can be prepared for when they come. So, like, that's another thing that Gia Prism tried to say, is that, like, we were unhealed and unintegrated and using escapism, but I'm not. I'm literally teaching people how to be prepared for when they come and how to heal yourself, like, out of all of these systems of oppression, but also how to spot, like, certain traits in people to train their brains and their neural pathways, not only for hope, but for being able to spot when people are trying to manipulate you and coerce you, because that's all people did all my life, and I didn't even realize I was being manipulated all my life. But narcissism is manipulation, because now you're manipulating my sense of reality. Actually, this is why I realized I like the show Real Housewives, because I could always, like, see that in them. And, like, now when I watch it, I'm like, it's, like, insane the psychoanalyzation I can do on these people. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just, like, where they need to, like, communicate differently, and this is where they're projecting from wounding, and look how they argue over stupid shit. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, if women, like, stopped arguing over stupid shit like purses and, like, litigation and lawsuits, and we started arguing over stop being a fucking misogynistic, pedophilic fucking asshole, and stop being a narcissist and dismissing other fucking people's realities, and stop believing in that stupid government system that literally fucking fucked us in the first place, and we all need to, like, band together and figure something out. And for me, it's like the aliens are coming, so it's like I don't even think, we need to do anything. But I do want to say, democratic socialism is the next step in the path to New Earth. And so in that video, Gia Prism wasn't even necessarily, like, wrong, but she was wrong to, like, then have to, like, come shit on other people's beliefs. And that's what I said. Like, she could have just, like, made a video about the fact that democratic socialism is of New Earth, but she had to also say that anybody who believes in med beds are unintegrated, unhealed, and using escapism, and that's ego. That's protecting your ego, because you have to convince yourself of your reality. So if you convince yourself that everybody else is crazy instead of, your beliefs, which aren't crazy, then you feel safer believing that instead of coming over and believing in aliens, because it's scary to believe in aliens, but you don't then dismiss other people's realities. It's extremely narcissistic. That is, again, something that I've been trained on my entire life, because all people did, including my parents, was dismiss my reality. And it's extremely painful, and it leads to mental health issues. And that's why we have mental health issues. Every single person who has a mental health issue is dealing with extreme narcissism. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it, now that I've like figured this out. And that's the other thing. I'm like, dude, I literally feel like I figured out a lot of the fucking world's problems. So seriously, I do feel very certain in my truth these days. And it's interesting because, you know, my personality is changing. Like, I do feel like I'm speaking even like a little bit differently than I used to, but it's because I'm changing. I'm changing into my leadership position. I'm showing people I am an example of what a leader of New Earth looks like. And we're not these like docile, quiet little mouses. We are like serious about the right things. We are serious about getting out of oppression. We are serious about breaking generational karmic cycles of limiting beliefs, because that's why we have issues right now. All these people think that gay people are like fucked up, and it's like, that's a limiting belief. You know, the same thing with the trans situation, same thing with Christianity, that Christians are like the only way. And it's like, that's a limiting belief. Somebody gave you those beliefs. So we have to push past all of those. Same thing with like, the government's going to fix this. The government has never fixed anything ever. So again, it's not a logical thought to think that the government's going to fix this, but it is a step towards hope neurologically. So I do foresee, I've been calling this and predicting this as well, that there is going to be a regime changeover at some point. Although I predicted it back in March and it's still July. So I genuinely have no idea when that's going to change. But we do need that. That will be like the next step. Like, you know, it's like, it's just a progressive step towards where we need to go, but that's not like, actually our entire government is going to collapse. And so, and you know, the thing is also God has been telling me lately, like, Jesus used divisive language. So I use very divisive language like that. Like, I use collapse, I use matrix, I use oppression. I use kind of like these bigger divisive words, because that's how aliens, you know, I could say they're humans, but I keep saying aliens because that's strategic by God. Through me, through the way I speak. He's been telling me this lately. Because compared to even like other channelers and things like that, because divisive language awakens people. So that's divisive language. Inflammatory language is what Gia Prism used against me, which is like calling people, and Sarah Treadwell, calling people paranoid, calling people crazy, calling them ungrounded, unintegrated, using escapism. Those are like inflammatory words that have historically been used against women to institutionalize them, might I add. So as a woman using that language, the historical context to that entire situation was also just absolutely abhorrent. However, I digress. This is why Jesus used, I have those codes too. I have like the divisive language codes where Jesus used this like divisive language to awaken people. You know, it gets people's attention. It wakes them up to certain things that are going on. Obviously, it makes people start to think, you know, those kinds of things. And so that alone like proves my channels too, with the whole Matrix movie and stuff, and how we're all awakening with Christ consciousness. That I just can't even, I can't anymore, guys. The proof is like so much. So it's been beautiful, you know, for me lately. It really has. And I just want to share this with people who feel called to be New Earth leaders and those types of things. I am certain of this now. I'm absolutely certain that this is happening, and I think it's so beautiful. I think it is just the most beautiful thing, and I think, you know, God keeps telling me that he's just gonna like show people who he is. Like, he's gonna show people the biblical God that we like all kind of imagine, and he's like, there are people down here who get like huge chunks of that. Like, obviously people in Hollywood and like, you know, wealthier people, they get bigger chunks of like what God is, but like now everybody's gonna know God, you know, like that's just like how it's kind of felt. But really, they're very empty, those people, and there is a cost to this, to being in hell. So that's also going to be revealed, is we just didn't know the reality of people's lives ever. We've all been existing in other realities, and someday that's going to be, you know, genuinely exposed for people. And I already have a head start on that. I've already honestly exposed a lot of my reality, and that's why I have, because I'm being an example again of what's going to be happening, is that a lot of people are going to have to expose themselves because we have to learn from it. And so that's what I'm saying. It's not just me telling my story. It's going to be so many people telling their stories and sharing this. I think it's everybody at some point, genuinely, and I think some people are going to be more visible.